So hello everybody and welcome. It's October and it's time for another monthly show. Now, another action-packed show today, lots of content to get through, lots of news, lots of updates. So if you're over on YouTube watching this live, do come on over to Crowdcast. It's a pre-recorded show, but we are here in the chat. Most of the product team, myself, Aparna, and many of the people who you'll see give their updates a little bit later today. Otherwise, if you can't stay all the way through, and as I say, it is going to be a lot of content today again, do feel free to visit YouTube. We'll put some timestamps in there for you to be able to watch at your leisure and dive straight in to the bits that matter most to you. So let's get started. First of all, I should welcome, of course, my regular co-host and my colleague and the lady in the chair, Aparna Jue. How are you?
Doing great. It's fall time here in the States, so things are changing color. It's beautiful. We're moving along in our product roadmap really well, and I hope everybody in the community has had a great October so far. So doing really well, Tim. Thanks for asking.
Lots of stuff, as I say, to get through tonight. We've got an update on Shelley and how we're kind of improving and evolving the delegation experience, particularly there, and some of the work that's going on behind the scenes on the network. I believe also we'll have some updates on Goguen today.
For sure. There's plenty of updates on Goguen today, so that's going to take up a majority of the show.
And we're going to have some dates.
We'll have some dates.
We'll have some dates. Okay, we'll have some dates. We'll also have a nice overview of how the whole rollout plan is going to look. So do stay tuned for that a little bit later in the show. We'll also be talking to a few partners. I believe we've got a little bit more news there. We're also going to speak to somebody who recently was involved in the Wyoming hackathon, and we've also got a new face from the Cardano Foundation to introduce to you all tonight as well. So let's dive straight in, and let's start off with the delegation experience, and in particular some of the work that's going on behind the scenes to improve the way that we interact with the stake pool operator community, because ultimately that's what translates through into a healthy and a happy ecosystem and network. So earlier I caught up with three of the guys who are kind of leading on that work: Colin, who some of you will have seen before, Lando, and also Ben, who's recently joined IOG to work on this area. So let's go over to that clip now. So Colin, Lando, and Ben, thank you very much for joining today. So Lando, let's maybe start with you. You've been leading the program that we've been internally delegation v2.0, which obviously encompasses a bunch of different measures across a range of different areas, but all to improve the overall delegation and stake pool operator experience. Do you maybe want to give us a little bit more detail on what that involves and what we might expect to see soon?
Yes, Jelly was launched on July. And now we are working on a lot of improvements we're seeing for the different users we have in Cardano. We have for the delegators and for the stake pool operators, we are working in a holistic view to improve their experience and how they can work, interact, and use Cardano. We are working on a feature called multi-account delegation that will allow users to divide their funds or their ADA in different accounts within only one wallet. So with only one passphrase, you can have multiple accounts, and with each of those accounts, you can delegate to a different stake pool. That will allow users to divide their ADA and also create a different portfolio where they can choose different stake pools depending on their requirements they have for choosing them, so they can divide their ADA. Also, we are working in a hardware wallet integration, so people can sign transactions, and also stake pool operators can sign the stake pool certificate with hardware wallets. We're working on a new delegation strategy where we want to remove some of the IOG stake pools from being public. So we're going to transition them to being private, and that will give more room for community stake pools to attract delegation for their own stake pools. And also, we're going to engage in a program where we will help community stake pools delegating our own ADA. We're working on a lot of stuff. We're working this as a program level, seeing what holistically we can do to improve the full experience for also stake pool operators and every user that will interact and work with Cardano.
Okay, thanks, Lando. So Ben, let's bring you in now. We're talking about stake pool operators. You've recently joined IOG in a new role, specifically working with SPOs. Perhaps you want to tell us a little bit more about your brief.
Yeah, so I've come in to work with the stake pool operator community specifically. I'm present in stake pool operator groups. I've been mapping the territory, and I'm working with individual state pool operators too, and I'm ensuring that people are being heard, mapping potential opportunities in the ecosystem. So an important aspect of that exploration is improving feedback loops. And by working with state pool operators to lower barriers to observation and orientation. And those are the two critical issues. And if we can do that for stakeholders in our ecosystem, so CF, IOG, state pool operators, I believe we can improve everybody's ability to make decisions and take action and to tighten that decision loop. So that's the framework I'm using. I'm closely collaborating with the Cardano Foundation community team on that, and I'm reporting to you, Tim, as you know. So it's been a really great first few weeks, and I've really enjoyed it, and I'm really, really busy engaging on those.
And a lot of this stuff, Ben, is about separating the signal, I suppose, out of the noise. I mean, one of the amazing things about our community, and particularly the stake pool ecosystem, is we've got probably 1,200 pools. There's a lot of voices out there. So I guess your job really is to try and distill that into actionable information to improve everything.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And something we said on a private call, Tim, was about ensuring, a message being sent doesn't mean necessarily the message is received. And so it's improving that ratio of message sent to message received, as well as curating signal from noise. So really, I want to make sure when we do get in touch, it's useful and it's important. And I want to improve our ability to reach as many state pool operators as possible when we've got something important to say. And one last point is also that I want to help different groups within the ecosystem understand each other and what they're doing too. So that's another thing that I'm thinking about.
Thanks, Ben. Colin, one of the package of measures, I guess, within the overall delegation program that Lando is leading is around parameters. We've touched on this before in a previous show. We had a good sort of in-depth conversation as well, which we've also shared on YouTube previously. Perhaps you can give us an update on where we are with our thinking around parameters, but also just briefly for anyone who hasn't picked up on the conversation, why some of these parameters actually matter.
Sure. We're working on two main parameters right now. We have a parameter we call K, which determines the maximum size of the pools, and another parameter we call A naught, which is the benefit that pledge brings to the system. So pledge is how much a stake pool operator puts in to the pool themselves. And this is something we think is very important, both for the stability and the safety and security of the network. And it's something that we are looking to make sure is rewarded appropriately. And in all these parameters, we're looking to balance a number of factors: the security of the system, to make sure that staking is a stable long-term business, that the rewards are split appropriately between delegators and stake pool operators, block creation rates stay high. And balancing all these factors is very challenging. So this is not a single optimization problem with an equation. We're trying to balance these, and it is taking longer than we have hoped. And we hope to very quickly have some answers, both on our direction for K and A naught. We're in the very final stages of those discussions internally. So we hope to have some information out there soon.
And we've had some good community contributions as well, specifically on Pledge, for example, where I believe one of the SIPs is actually being implemented or potentially being implemented in part.
Absolutely. This was raised by Sean McMurdo, and we are taking it very seriously. It's one of the main things that we're looking at with the Pledge benefit. Okay,
we'll look forward to hearing more about the specific parameters and where they're moving very soon. Ben, perhaps give you the final word. You're here to talk to the community. What message have you got for any SPOs out there watching today's show?
Well, I would love SPOs to feel they can get in touch, and if you're not sure who to talk to, then I would consider myself to be first point of contact. Because of that, my Twitter DMs and Telegram is open to all stake pool operators any day of the week. What I'd also say is my handle is @BenO'Hanlon, so it should be easy to find me. We're also developing a stake pool operator digest. And that's the first example of working on improving people's ability to observe. So what I'd really like people to do is to sign up to our email list, because that is going to be the main way that I communicate important updates and build those relationships.
Ben, Lando, Colin, Thanks very much.
So Tim, that was a pretty good segment on parameters with Lando, Ben, and Colin. But there was one parameter that was missing, and that was around decentralization, or what we like to call the D parameter.
That's right. And of course, D is really the measure by which you assess how many blocks are being produced by IOG's federated nodes versus the blocks that are being minted by the stake pool operator community. And of course, the goal is full decentralization of block production. Now, originally, we communicated that we were going to stop at the halfway mark, which is coming up very, very soon, at the 0.5 mark, because that really kind of gives that balance to the network. And we were going to make an assessment then and see, where do we go next from here? But you know what? Holidays come early, I think. We've made that assessment already, and the network is performing really, really well. The stake pools are performing really, really well. And so we're going to keep on pushing on. We're going to break on through. We're going to break through that 50-50 barrier, and we're going to keep moving. We'll still keep deprecating at the same rate, and we'll take that up to the holiday season, kind of mid-December, around that kind of point. And we'll take a short break then, because I think even the network deserves a little rest over the holiday season. But then from then on in the new year onwards, we'll again continue deprecating. Now, of course, if we hit any snags or identify any issues on that journey, we still reserve the right to kind of slow things down or take another pause. But as I say, it's looking pretty good. So our goal is just to keep on going after the new year and head towards March, when we'll have a fully decentralized network with all the blocks being produced by our amazing stake pool operator community. So that's the plan. So let's maybe move on to another element of the delegation experience now, which of course is the wallet experience. You can delegate through a number of different wallets, but let's talk about Daedalus in particular. We had a new version of Daedalus, which came out today, which is Wednesday when we're filming this, although you're watching this on Thursday. So we talked to Darko and we talked to Filip as well to learn a little bit more about what you can find in that if you haven't downloaded it already, and also a couple of exciting new enhancements coming very, very soon to Daedalus. So Darko, Filip, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. Another few busy weeks in the world of Daedalus and a new release, 2.4.0. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and what we can expect?
Yeah, happy to do so, Tim. So we have added a lot of extra functionality to help people make their delegation choice and identify the pools they want to delegate to. In this release, we have added a saturation indicator, which shows how close to saturation point the pool is. And we also have potential rewards estimation based on the amount of stake you intend to delegate. Then there is a completely new table view for stake pools for easier stake pool comparison. And finally, to help people understand what all of those stake pool attributes mean, we have added tooltips which explain all of the attributes for stake pools.
So those tooltips was a sort of, I think, one of the requests that was much requested also by users. Perhaps you just want to give us a quick demonstration of the new version of Daedalus, just so we can have a look at some of those things in action.
Sure, Tim. I can do a super quick demo because we have also prepared a full walkthrough video for Daedalus 2.4.0. So let's cover the new functionality briefly. You can immediately see that stake pool tiles now include a saturation indicator. And this indicator is also present here in the stake pool details. Pools are saturated when their saturation indicator reaches 100%. And at this point, they stop earning more rewards with increases in stake. So delegators should avoid delegating pools which are oversaturated, which means pools which have saturation level above 100%. We have also mentioned the explanation tooltips. So all of the stake pool attributes are explained here in these tooltips. And next, we have potential rewards, which are estimated based on the amount of stake you intend to delegate, which is selected here in the stake slider. And we are showing ranking only for pools for which the estimated rewards are above 0, because all of the other pools which have rewards estimated at 0 are basically the same. With this selection of 1,000 in the stake slider, I can see that 226 pools have ranking. If I increase the amount of stake in the stake slider, I will notice that more pools will have potential rewards estimated above 0, so more pools will have ranking. So in this case, almost all of the pools have ranking. Only a couple of pools at the end have rewards estimated at 0. And let's quickly cover the table view for stake pools. So this view enables easier comparison of stake pools. So initially, stake pools are ordered by the ranking in this view, which is effectively the same as ordering by potential rewards, because ranking is based on potential rewards. And I can also use the stake slider here to change the input which goes into the ranking calculation. So in this case, I will use the dropdown to select the amount of stake in my wallet number 1. So this wallet has only 60 ADA, so the potential rewards will be recalculated and the rewards will be less. These rewards are per epoch. You can also notice that we have the same explanation tooltips here in the table view. And finally, you can sort stake pools by any of these attributes in ascending or descending order. That's it for the quick demo. Make sure you check the full walkthrough for Daedalus 2.4.0.
So, Filip, there's also been a lot of questions out there. And of course, last month you came on and gave us a bit of an update around hardware wallet support. What's the latest you can share on that?
Yes, thank you, Tim. That's correct. A lot of work being done on the hardware wallets part. It's actually split into 2 parts. One part is for the stake pool operators and owners, which will allow them to delegate, pledge, even register and retire their stake pools via hardware devices, which is coming later this year, but more precisely by the end of this year. We'll still finalize and developing that part, as well as multi-account support on the hardware devices. But I think the more interesting part is definitely the actual connecting of hardware devices to Daedalus, Trezor ledger devices, of course. And I believe Darko can tell us a little bit more details about that, from a Daedalus point of view.
Absolutely. Thanks, Filip. Hardware wallet support is coming to Daedalus Flight really, really soon. Eventually, we will be supporting both Ledger Nano S, Ledger Nano X, and Trezor Model T, but initially we are releasing Daedalus Flight with the support for Trezor devices. This will be available by the end of this week or early next week. So since hardware wallet support is a major milestone for Daedalus, we are increasing the major version to 3.0. It's a major milestone because hardware wallet support will make Daedalus the most secure and the most private wallet for Cardano on the market. On one side, we have cold storage with hardware wallet devices, and on the other side, we have full node. Because Daedalus is downloading a full copy of the blockchain, it validates all of the transactions in the history of the network, and it's not relying on any third-party services or servers, which means that it cannot go down, basically, because it connects directly to a decentralized network. Instead of me chatting about this, let me quickly share my screen and show you a live demo. Here is a video of Daedalus working with Trezor that I have recorded this morning. On the right side, you have an overlay which displays the Trezor device. So as you can see, I already have one wallet here in Daedalus, which is a software wallet. And the first thing I will do will be adding the Trezor hardware wallet to Daedalus. So there is a new connect button here in the add wallet screen. And when I click that button, Daedalus is waiting for the device to be connected. At this point, Daedalus doesn't know which device it is because we are supporting both Ledger and Trezor devices. So, and as soon as I connect the device, Daedalus detects that this is a Trezor device. And now it is asking me to export a public key on the device. And you will see here on the right side that Trezor is presenting the option to export a public key. And when I click the green button, public key is exporting, and we can start restoring hardware wallet in Daedalus. I will skip ahead until the wallet is restored to show you how other functionality works. So here the restoration is almost complete, then my transaction history is visible. I can click show more to see all of my transactions. And this wallet looks very similar to regular Daedalus wallets that have all the tabs in the wallet screen. So now I will actually go to the receive screen and pick one of the addresses from the software wallet to demonstrate how sending ADA works with the hardware devices. So I will paste in the address here, and I will enter the amount of 5 ADA, and I click next. Here is the dialog for sending ADA. So everything is exactly the same as with the regular Daedalus wallets, but instead of entering my spending password to sign the transaction, I actually need to use a hardware wallet device because private keys are stored on the device, and the device needs to sign the transaction. So now the device will ask me to verify the receiving address. So when I scroll, I can compare the address with the one on the screen. So I can see it's ending with 7AJ, and the same address is displayed on the hardware wallet device screen. So let's continue. Now I need to confirm the amount I'm sending and the fee. And then finally, I hold the green button to go to sign the transaction. The transaction is now signed, and I can press send to submit it to the network. As soon as the transaction is submitted on the network, it's visible here in the transaction list. And it will also be visible in the receiving wallet. So here it is. So now let's look at the delegation user interface. Again, everything looks exactly the same as with the regular wallets. And my previous delegation preferences are restored. As you can see here, I will just go through the delegation wizard here to show you how the delegation works with hardware wallet devices. So here I can select the wallet, and you can see that hardware wallets are listed as regular Daedalus wallets. They just have this hardware wallet icon, which indicates that this is a hardware wallet. So let's see how this works. When I click continue, I need to choose a stake pool. I will choose one of the IOG pools, IOG 14 in this case. And when I click continue, now I also need to sign the transaction on the hardware device. And first I need to actually confirm the transaction details. So let's see, when I swipe, I actually need to confirm the ID of the pool I'm delegating to. When I click confirm that, the next I'm confirming the transaction fees. So when I swipe, the final step is holding that button for a while for transaction to be signed. Transaction is now signed and ready to be submitted on the network. When I click confirm, the transaction is submitted on the network, and my delegation preference is now changed, and my wallet is delegated to IOG 14 pool. So this is it for hardware wallets demo. It's basically the business as usual as with regular Daedalus wallets with software managed private keys, but all of the steps which require signing, which is sending data and delegating, require you to plug in your device and use it to sign your transaction. And when you unplug your device, your wallets are still visible and displayed in Daedalus, but they are in read-only mode. You just need to plug in the device when you need to sign a transaction.
Filip, Darko, thanks very much for the updates, and we'll look forward to the new Daedaluses coming soon. Thank you. Okay, so that's a quick update on Daedalus, and we've heard a little bit more about how Shelley is continuing to evolve. Now let's move on to Goguen, which of course is the story that we all want to talk about right now. But before we go into that and talk a little bit more about the detail, it's probably just worth having a little bit of a chat, Aparna, about what is Goguen? You know, let's just be very, very clear. When we say Goguen, or when we talk about the Goguen era, or when we talk about Goguen functionality, what do we actually mean by that? Because of course it's a rollout. It's a series of enhancements and a series of deployments onto the mainnet. So perhaps let's just talk a little bit about what is Goguen? What do we mean by Goguen?
So if I had to sum up Goguen in one word, it would be utility. You know, if you look at each of the eras or the pillars of Cardano, there's always something that describes the overarching theme of that particular era. Like for Byron, it's all about foundation. For Shelley, it was all about operations, you know, getting the network up and running. For Voltaire, it's governance and decentralized governance of that. But for Goguen, it's utility. And I can say many things about utility, but what does utility actually mean? It means the ability to use the blockchain for real-world applications. Not just transactional type of applications, but more so into the smart contracting, more so into actual use cases around payments and DeFi and anything else that blockchain would need to be involved in. I like use cases around supply chain, for example, because that's one of the areas I know that definitely needs blockchain. And finance, like we mentioned with DeFi, there's plenty of different angles to DeFi. It's just one big box of applications just sitting there that require utility. And Goguen can start utilizing Cardano by adding a bunch of components and functionality to the chain that eventually gets us to smart contracts and then beyond, even beyond smart contracts. And let me kind of explain what that means, Tim. So we start out with transactional metadata, adding context to transactions, right? That's the very first thing, and that already we launched, and that's out already, and we are doing POCs with a couple of commercial partners and other partners just to test this out and see what we can build on it. Multi-sig is another key piece. You know, being able to have multiple transactions signed by multiple parties for security reasons and payments and settlements and so on. And then once you go past that, you go into token ability. So being able to generate tokens on the chain and natively at that. So Cardano, we're going into book section. We'll talk a little bit with Vukasin on native assets coming up. But that is a key piece of Goguen, the ability to mint your own token on the chain for multiple different applications and use cases. Once you're at that part, then the scripting ability, which is smart contracts, that's what Plutus is. So the Plutus foundational piece, which adds that scripting and that smart contract piece to it, where you can actually code the chain. So you can actually code the blockchain. And then once you go past that, it's now into full function consumer type applications. And that's when you get domain specific languages that are built on top of Plutus or integrate into Cardano directly, which utilize the bedrock of Cardano, which is all the foundational pieces from Shelley. So I know that was a lot, but as you can tell, Goggen's huge. It's a program and it's a journey, a collection of components that eventually get us to that utility portion.
So, of course, we're going to have Dimitris on the show a little bit later, and he's going to show us how some of those components, as you say, those sort of utility functions and the kind of the things that will feed the use cases are going to kind of fit together in the Goguen rollout. So we'll talk more on that in a moment, and of course some dates of some of those specific components and when people can expect to see those land. But maybe let's start off with multi-asset, native assets. We spoke earlier to Vukasin, who's been leading on this, and he took us through a little bit of some of the use cases and introduced us a little bit more to what you can expect to see.
So Community Goguen is our utility pillar, and Tim and I have alluded to this earlier in the conversation as we were discussing the different variables and deliverables of Goguen. And one of the key items we wanted to discuss is that Plutus isn't the only thing. It is our smart contracting language native to the Cardano blockchain. However, there are quite a few key components and functionality that needs to be delivered before we even get to a Plutus and then beyond Plutus as well. And one of those key components are the native tokens. So we have a multi-asset standard that's coming up in Cardano, which we're about to deliver. And that multi-asset standard gives us the ability to mint tokens natively on the chain and gives users the ability to do that as well. And Vukasin has been working on the ERC converter, which is kind of our internal code name right now, but it's a project to convert some of the ERC tokens onto the chain. And you would have seen a demo of that as it came out today. And Vukasin is also going to be taking on the native tokens piece because it makes sense for him to understand the properties of what needs to be delivered on the chain for our native side of the tokens as we're converting the market leaders' tokens as well. So, Vuk, with that, we're looking at native tokens a little differently from how Ethereum and some of the other chains might be looking at it, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So since we had a bit more time to actually develop those, we developed tokens that are basically native, meaning that those are tokens that are based on the ledger.
And Vukasin, I think we've got a comparison chart, haven't we, that we can share with people, maybe just to show a little bit of the points of difference and the competitive advantage with the solution that you're developing at the moment. Perhaps you want to share that.
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. Yeah, basically, as I mentioned, we are treating native tokens the same way that we are treating ADA. And because of that, transfers of native tokens are very efficient. They are safe because those are based on the ledger. Other than that, we have special characteristics like supporting non-fungible tokens out of the box. Also, we allow users to transfer multiple native assets in one transaction, which can be very interesting, and many other smaller ones.
It's almost like a collection of services, isn't it, Vuk? It's we're going to be creating a bundle of services that we can provide token creators in the future. Like, for example, tying in Prism or the identity piece, or even what we're doing with Voltaire and the voting angle of it. We're even looking at how to design that in as a part of this, correct?
Yeah, definitely. This is just the base on which we can build many other features on top. And in fact, we are gathering so much feedback from the partners that we're working with for the ERC20 converter. We have so many interesting ideas that we are going to be rolling out slowly.
All right, so let's talk about that from a partnership perspective. We're going to be going through with Dimitris and Kevin a little later on the delivery side of things. So our audience will see that and the timelines. But we have been looking at a rollout strategy, which includes something called a pre-production environment, which really is a more tested version, a collection of stuff that partners can start to use to create their tokens and their use cases. So Vukasin, what are you seeing? Because we've already started these conversations with partners and commercial use cases.
Yeah, that's been going on for some time on the ERC20 converter side. We have that environment mainly because we want to make sure that when our partners want to migrate to Cardano, they get a flawless experience and that they can actually test that and make sure that everything is going to go as planned. And it's mainly for them to make sure that everything works, because it's a very big thing for a partner to actually move from one chain to another, if you think about it.
Right. We're lovingly calling it the mint, right, Tim?
That's the working name at the moment. Whether it will stick, maybe the community can vote on what we call it. But yeah, we're calling it the mint at the moment. It's where the tokens are made, so why not?
You're right.
Vukasin, maybe just another question, just to contextualize this a little bit. As Aparna says, we'll look at some timelines and some dates coming up next. But in the context of kind of the Goguen rollout, where does this sit in terms of what will come after it? Because it's both an important thing in its own right, but also an important building block.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, this is also the reason why we started the work on the ERC20 converter, because we wanted to make sure that we have as many tokens as possible on the platform before we introduce the logic part, which are smart contracts. Because without actually having no tokens on the platform, it's very questionable the value that we'll be bringing with other functionality on top. So it's very fundamental that we bring all the tokens that we can first, and then everything rest.
We'll let you get back to work. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so Tim, that was good with Vukasin. It kind of set the stage for the strategy around multi-assets, and it's really that two-pronged approach. There's the native piece, right, which is basically us building the ability to create tokens natively for users. But there's also the other piece, which comes from the interoperability portion, which is ERC20 standards, and how do we get those token builders to play around in our network and to use our network as well for like I talked about, all the different value propositions that the network can bring. And Vuk is working on the ERC20 converter, so he's going to demo that. We've been working on that for about a month, a little over a month right now. So you guys are going to have a first taste of the demo in this next clip.
Hello, everyone. So we are here to talk about the ERC20 converter. So Vuk, in case anyone missed the last update, can you just briefly intro it for us?
Yeah, sure. The ERC20 converter is a tool that allows you to convert a ERC20 token based on the Ethereum network to a native token based on Cardano.
Nice. And who do you see utilizing this tool?
Yeah, so we mainly think about two personas, the token issuer, which are the organizations that are behind a particular token and that want to move to Cardano, and the token holder, which are the users that hold some tokens on Ethereum and they want to convert that to Cardano.
Nice. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the benefits of moving to Cardano for these personas?
Yeah, so for the token issuer, it would definitely be enabling particular use cases that are currently not possible on Ethereum, mainly because of the price, because of the security, because of the complexity involved in having smart contracts manage all of that. While for the token holder is, of course, the price of transactions and all the features that we'll be bringing on board with native tokens.
Cool. And I've been told that you have a demo for us, right?
Yep. Let me show you. So there are three ways in which a partner can convert their tokens. The first one would be by airdropping the token on the destination network, in that way basically cloning the token. The second one would be by burning the token on the source network and creating one on the destination network. And the third one would be by locking the token on the source network and releasing it on the destination network. Now we are going to go through a flow of migration in the second case, where we are locking the token on the source network and releasing it on the destination network. The token that we are going to convert is SingularityNet. And the first thing that I need to do is authenticate on Web3. I'm going to do that with my MetaMask account. And when I'm connected, I'm going to see all the tokens that I have on the account. And I can see the balance that I have for AGI. Now I'm going to select all the tokens that I have, and I'm going to paste in the address. MetaMask is going to ask me to confirm. I'm going to confirm the transaction, and the transaction is going to execute. When the transaction is done, I'm going to get a message that it was successful. Let's wait for it. Yeah, the migration was successful, and what I can see here is that I have 8 tokens on Cardano that I can play around with Daedalus or whatever I want. Now, if I'm a partner, what I need to do is I need to sign up here, leave my email, my name, my surname, the organization that I represent, and paste in the address of the ERC20 contract that I want to migrate, and just request for the migration. It's very simple, in a similar way that I did convert SingularityNet. You can imagine in the future being able to convert a DAI token or a USDC token basically independently. Now, if a token is not eligible and I want to be alerted of the changes of that, I can be also notified on my email, and I just leave my email and I subscribe to it, and anything new that happens for that particular token, I'm just gonna be alerted. Thanks, and hope you like it.
Okay, so that's an update on the multi-asset ledger, native assets, and of course the ERC20 conversion. Now, coming up later in the show, we've got some more guests. We'll have Eva, who's the new Chief Growth from the Cardano Foundation. She'll be joining us towards the end of the show to introduce herself. She's been with us 3 weeks within the ecosystem, so that'll be nice to meet her for the first time. We'll also have a bit more news on Catalyst, which is going great guns from Door, and also one of our winners from the Wyoming Hackathon. So that's all coming up a little bit later. But now we've looked at some of the detail behind those kind of early Goguen components. Let's maybe dive a little bit more deeply into the dates and what we can expect in terms of that rollout. So let's go to that clip now.
Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hi, Aparna.
Hi, it's been a little while, but it's good to have you here. Also, it's been a little while since we've talked about the HFC events, right? The Hard Fork Combinator event. And that's why I'd like you to kind of bring our audience up to speed with the HFC event concept and then why it's important for the network.
Yeah, so basically the hard fork combinator is what lets us go from one version of the Cardano protocol to the next, Aparna. And the first time we used this was in going from Byron to Shelley, which is a major event. So we went from protocol version 1.0 in Byron to protocol version 2.0 in Shelley. What the combinator does, what the hard fork combinator does, is basically let a single version of the node act as if it was both the old node and the new protocol version at the same time. So for a short period of time, we're in a kind of no man's land. We're transitioning from one protocol version to the next, and then all the nodes in the network catch up. They stabilize. They all agree on the new protocol version, and we go forward from Byron to Shelley, or from Shelley to the next protocol version, and so forth.
Yeah, it's a great piece of engineering, and it went really well. I mean, we tested it out multiple times, and before we actually did it with what you're just talking about with the Byron to Shelley. So we're about to come up on another one, right, Kevin?
Yeah, that's right, Aparna. I should probably tell you that during the Byron Shelley hard fork, there's a whole group of us sitting around a screen doing a countdown and watching as the clock ticked rapidly from Byron into Shelley. And when it did, nothing happened, and we were all really excited because nothing happened. It just changed. The version just changed, and everything just kept working. And that's, I think, is the best thing you could possibly say about something like the hard fork combinator. So now we're getting ready for the next hard fork. What we're doing is we're introducing a key piece of technology. We're going for the first protocol version change since Shelley, so it's kind of a dress rehearsal for us for all the future changes that we're going to make. And the first thing we're going to introduce is going to be about token locking.
So explain a little bit more about token locking. It's more in terms of Voltaire. However, I do want to set the stage that this is also very Goguen related at some point, because a lot of these services are going to be interoperable with the different eras. So Kevin, token locking.
Yeah, so token locking is basically what it sounds like, Aparna. What it means is that you can hold on to a token for a particular period of time and prevent it being spent. And at the moment in Cardano, the only tokens we have are ADA. But in future, we're going to have, when we get to the Goguen era, we will have more types of token. So for Voltaire, for voting, what we'll be able to do is to say your ADA is locked for a certain period. We start a voting period. The ADA that you had at the start of the vote is locked, and you need to hold on to that ADA for the whole voting period so that you don't spend it. So your vote, so the ADA doesn't get counted twice for some vote. Okay, so that's an example of how we're going to use token locking for voting for Voltaire. But when you get to other types of token, when we move to Goguen, when we have native tokens and we have smart contracts, then you can do many more things too. So an example might be that if you're putting money aside for your friend's 18th birthday, then you could lock it using a token locking mechanism, using a smart contract, and only release it on a particular date. And nobody, of course, could then spend that money, and your friend would have a fantastic birthday when it came.
So Kevin, the HFC event for the token locking, there is a date that we have in mind for this. So can you share that with the audience, please?
Yeah, so this is going to be HFC 3.0, and we're targeting the middle of December, Aparna. So it will happen very, very soon.
Great. More information to come on that, guys.
Kevin, thanks very much. So maybe now's a good time to go over to Dimitris. Now, some people watching may recognize Dimitris from the videos he made when we started rolling out the ITN at the end of last year. Yeah, hopefully we'll get some more videos from Dimitris soon. But Dimitris, maybe you want to share a little bit about the program plan for Goguen and what we can expect over the next few months.
So what we are looking at here is the full Goguen program plan. This is a quite dynamic document, so we're not looking at specific dates here or anything like that, but it's more of an overview of what we are doing in terms of delivering the entire program. We have several teams involved and several bits and pieces that need to be connected and tested together before we release any of the upcoming features. And just to show a bit what I mean in more details, we have a nice legend here with a bit of color coding. And as part of Goguen, we have native tokens, which is a huge piece of work on its own. Then we have Bluetooth Foundation, and then the Bluetooth application framework, and Marlowe, which come closely linked together. And also on top of that, we have some standalone milestones that we're trying to achieve, which you see in orange color in this Gantt chart here. So as I've said, we have first of all native tokens. For the native tokens, the first bit is that we need the multi-currency node working, and for that we have the node team working with us. The good news is that based on the experience we had from Sele and some additional methods we're now using and the utilization of tools like Jira, we are able to predict much more accurately the work, the scope that we have to deliver, and that gives us a much better view of the velocity, and also, in a nutshell, a horizon of 2-3 sprints ahead, so roughly a month and a half ahead, that we can predict with very high confidence if we can deliver something or if there will be some delays introduced in any part of the development. So the key thing for us is to have the multi-currency node, which is already being in development, and then right before this becomes available, we're already finding ways for the Adrestia team, that includes the wallet backend development, to work early on that, to start working early on that. So there is an effort to share APIs early and start the work, unblock any work from starting only when we have the node available. At the same time, apart from the integration and what happens on the wallet backend and what happens with the metadata and the Explorer integration that are needed for the native tokens launch, we have also Daedalus support, and that is in terms of showing tokens and sending and receiving tokens through the Daedalus wallet. And of course, we need to do some work on the tech writing side, write some tutorials for all the components and additional documentation that's needed. We need to complete our QA activities for quality control. And of course, we need to set up the environments. We need to set up a way for people to have funds, to have test data in order to submit the transactions and the native tokens on the testing environments, or the environments that will bring early, the pre-productions, as we start calling them these days. And on top of that, of course, we need to do some marketing and comms work, and we need your help on that, as always, Tim. On the media side, we need also to prepare and share our approach. We need to work with exchanges in order to do integration, not only for native tokens, but as I'll show you now, for other projects too, like the Plutus Foundation. So these activities are kind of repetitive for the different projects that we're trying to roll out. And of course, from the product side, because this is what's driving us all, we need to make sure that all the different bits and pieces and what goes where in terms of the different releases is prepared and signed off. And of course, we need to set up support. And on top of that, we also need to make sure that we engage with partners and we bring in some additional functionalities, like converting from ERC to Cardano, which is another initiative that is now part of the Goguen program. So what I've already mentioned is just the native tokens bit and the different work streams. Work continues for the Plutus Foundation bit. Again, we need the EUTXO node, which is actually already being worked on. Here we see it a bit as shown a bit as sequential compared to the multi-currency node, but we have already started with that too. And again, we need to work on the Adrestia side, update Daedalus, prepare our documentation, go through the QA stage, set up our environments, and do the whole round of work also for Plutus Foundation, which is then followed by the Plutus application framework, and which is linked with the Marlowe releases. We are aiming to have a Marlowe alpha standalone release very, very shortly. It's this week. And then we're aiming to do the same for an updated Plutus Playground refresh later this year, before the end of the year. That's our aim, at least. And then, yeah, when we reach a point, as you can see, moving on the right, towards the right-hand side of the slide, of course, ambiguity increases a bit. We are more certain at this point and more confident about what we can deliver for native tokens, and we are paving the way already for the rest of the project's delivery.
So, Dimitris, this is clearly a highly complex, multi-threaded, multi-level, multi-stream program that you're managing here. And you used a word there, which I think is probably quite an important one to pick up on. You used the word confident. So how confident can we be in terms of our predictability of this plan? And I understand there's been a lot of work has gone into this level, but tell us maybe a little bit about the overall velocity and how do you predict the kind of landing times of a lot of this work?
So that's really a good question. What we try to do throughout the different teams, and we've already accomplished that, and it looks quite accurate already for the Node team. We're doing the same for Plutus and Marlowe. And the key difference here is that we've introduced an overall story pointing approach throughout the different teams. We are using Jira and the widget that are supported by the tool in order to calculate velocity and our burn down, and making sure that all the backlog and the scope is estimated accurately, and that gives us an indication by identifying the rough velocity that the team can achieve, which can be done in 2 or 3 sprints time. After 2 or 3 sprints, we can have a reasonable prediction of the average velocity, and in this case, it's quite good, especially the ones we've seen from the Node team, but as well as Marlowe and Pluto so far. So it's looking good. And that gives us the option of looking what we have in the backlog and being able to prioritize, make sure that everything that we put in is going to be delivered more or less, so with minimum difference compared to what we are aiming for. And also we are planning at least 2 sprints ahead, 2 bi-weekly sprints ahead. So that gives us at least a month of a clear view by when we can have something done. If things are taking more time than expected, then we know that in advance. In some cases, we are trying to get predictability of even 3 sprints ahead whenever this is possible. So that's kind of the way this new process works.
So Dimitris, this is a pretty substantial amount of work, and we learned quite a bit from Shelley as well, in how we were going about determining the confidence, like you talked about, level by using velocity measurements, and also estimating what sprints were like, estimating how many story points each of the features were like. So this is a great amount of work, and it really helps us as a company and as a professional organization to be better about predicting when these dates are happening and how agile we are with what we're delivering to the market. So I want to kind of dig into that a little bit. So how confident are you in the next upcoming dates that we are projecting for the Goguen program? And can you share a little bit more about those dates and what's going to come in those?
We can, as I've said, we're mainly focusing on getting a predictability level of 1 or 2 months ahead. And that's exactly what we can show here for native tokens: increased confidence and a clear breakdown of everything that needs to be done in order to get that out. What you see here is a more detailed view of what we're aiming for the next 3 months, 3-4 months for the Cardano native tokens. As you can see here, we have a different component view. We are not looking at work streams specifically now. What we have here is that we need to update the DB sync and the APIs. And we need also to implement the multi-currency node that was also mentioned in the previous slide. We have a timeline that shows by when we can complete that. We have specific story points which are remaining. And then we already working on an intermediate wallet backend integration. And why this is intermediate? Because simply by introducing multi-currency, this contains breaking changes. So some of the wallets, if we would say that we would just throw that out there on the mainnet, most of the wallets wouldn't work. So in order to avoid that and to allow our early adopters and even our testers to make sure that everything works fine, we are releasing an intermediate wallet backend version, which basically is just going to not consider any multi-currency block or any token related data that it reads from the chain, and just filter them out and continue working as it was for Filip, just by blocking any token related information and data. Now, in parallel with that, we are of course upgrading our wallet backend and the wallet APIs, including any DB sync updates that have to be made after the node is done. And in parallel, we're working on putting the token support in Daedalus. And when all that's done, and sorry, I forgot mentioning also that we need to put in place a token metadata server that needs to be integrated. And also, of course, we need to add Explorer support for multi-currency. So when all these different bits and pieces tie together, we will be able to have a pre-production environment that will have the token MVP. Right before that, and in order to allow some early testing and thoroughly test the changes we've made on the node side, we are looking to make available, and this is actually the first step, a native token node CLI version of the product, and that's going to be as early as late November, early December. Yep. And then when all the rest of the work is done, as I've just mentioned before, we're going to upgrade that in a way, or make it more like complete by introducing all these different components at the native tokens MVP stage, again, at the pre-production environment. Now, the key things and why we're breaking all these bits and pieces and we are planning our releases against that. The key reason is that we need to start testing components, additional components like the ERC20 converter. We are aiming to start testing that just on the Node CLI pre-production environment. That's not going to be a very user-friendly environment because it's all command line, so we don't have the tools to view hashes and to view transactions, etc., and we don't have a wallet, but it's still adequate in order to do some early testing on the conversion and make sure that this works as planned. And then when we have the full MVP, native tokens MVP on the pre-production, then we can do also some wallet testing for the converter. And on top of that, with the introduction of the Node CLI, and especially we need also that wallet that won't break with native tokens. Then we can also start the exchanges integration, for which we will allow ample time in order for them to make sure that they've done all the work from their side in order to be able to follow when we actually reach the point that native tokens will be hard forked on the Cardano testnet. And then shortly after that, our aim is before the end of February to have native tokens on mainnet and make that Goguen mainnet. After that point.
This sounds great. So yeah, we caught up with Vuk earlier. So the strategy around what we're doing with partners and how we're looking at the hard fork combinator event and making sure that we have the pre-production environments ready and staged for exchanges to get integrated, all of that ties really nicely with this plan. So really nice job by the team getting this done. Appreciate it, guys. Okay, so that was the helicopter view of the Goguen program. Complicated piece. I'm sure you guys all appreciate now how much that goes into actually planning this out from all different angles of the business. And we also were able to showcase dates for the native asset rollout.
And just to be clear, that is end of November, beginning of December. That's what it's looking like for the beginning of the pre-production environment.
Yeah, we have velocity behind that now, velocity measurements, Tim. So it's definitely close to that for sure.
Okay, so let's keep going. And I think we've got some more news. We've got some Marlowe news coming up, and also maybe even some more dates.
That is correct. Let's see what Shruti, Mike, and Simon have to say. They've been working on this for actually a few years, but it really kind of came together the past month and a half. So they're excited to share. Welcome back, Marlowe team. Mike, Shruti, Simon. It's so exciting to have you guys here.
Hello.
Hi. Everybody doing okay?
Yeah. Yeah, we're great.
Yeah, fine. Thank you very much.
Pretty excited for today too?
Super excited. Wow. Yeah, we have some exciting announcements coming up.
That is correct. So last time when I brought you guys on, it was a pretty popular segment. We introduced Marlowe. We talked about what it means to Goguen as a part of Goguen. And we also talked about what we were planning to do this quarter. And actually today, we're going to roll out Marlowe. So I'm very excited to bring this team back on to talk about Marlowe and what is actually getting rolled out. So Shruti, why don't we go right into that?
Yeah, so today we're rolling out Marlowe. With the first of that is coming the Marlowe Playground. When we started our long-term vision for Marlowe is for Marlowe Playground to be established as the medium for end-to-end financial smart contract development. Now, that is our long-term vision, but for the Playground, our objectives are that developers and you guys are able to start using and getting familiar with Marlowe Playground so that we can help us build this open source product. And so we built Marlowe with the ability and with the vision of having financial instruments on the blockchain be made more adoptable as well as usable, so that you can actually build out these financial instruments that are typically found on the Wall Street, and everyone today is replicating them on Ethereum and all of the other chains. But that way, by building out this DSL and the Playground, we are able to facilitate the development of end-to-end smart contracts and financial instruments in a much more easier, adoptable, and consistent manner. And so especially with ACTUS algorithmic financial standards, we will talk about that soon, we are able to actually start building out these contracts. So we're really excited to announce the Marlowe Playground, and we'll talk more about it.
Thanks, Shruti. So this has been in the works for a few years, Simon, and we went back and forth on the history a couple of times on this show and in other areas, and we've actually had playgrounds in the past, right? I love the term playground. It brings a joy to my face every time we have like a playground associated with a blockchain product. But what is the difference when it comes to the playground that we're rolling out today for Marlowe compared to the ones that we've done in the past?
Okay, so two key things. One is that we brought in JavaScript. So now you can, if you've got JavaScript knowledge, you can use that. You can build Marlowe contracts using JavaScript, inside JavaScript, have them converted to Marlowe so that you can use all your knowledge of programming in JavaScript to help you build contracts in Marlowe. The second thing I'm going to show is that we've got a proof of concept for how oracles will work inside Marlowe. So we're able to pull in data, a live exchange rate between US dollars and ADA, pull that into a contract and see how that works. And we're pulling that from the Kraken exchange. So that's really cool. Now, of course, this is working in simulation. It's giving you a chance to see these things. You adopt these things early, because when we put Marlowe onto the blockchain itself, Cardano itself, you'll be skilled and ready to go with writing Marlowe contracts and running them.
Thanks, Simon. Absolutely a great premise for a playground, right? You get to play around with it. You might fall down a little bit and scrape your knee, but then you get back on the swing. And I've seen the demos and how you guys have progressed. It looks pretty impressive to me on where we've come and how far we've come. So Mike, actually for you, from the UX side of things, you're a UX UI designer and you're working in the capacity of a product manager for UX UI here at IO. And you've been working through a couple of different products, Marlowe being one of the premier products that you're looking at. So when it comes to the playground, what excites you about this? Because you now kind of really get your hands dirty and are able to do what you need to do to get this product the consumer grade, right?
Yeah. Well, what excites me about it is that we've taken an amazing idea, amazing code made by Simon and his team, and with my experience, so I'm a commercial designer. And my background is designing commercial products, places like Microsoft and the British Library and stuff like that. We've taken the sort of genius code and we've put a really easy to use interface on it. So anyone should be able, anyone can understand it. We hope it's just like using an app that you might have on your computer or your phone. And the reason we've done that is, well, looking at across all the other products that are comparable, they're really not very well developed from the user's point of view. Each one of the playgrounds that we've looked at, specifically talking about the playground, has its own little idiosyncrasies and difficulties. And it's obvious to me that they haven't put a lot of effort into designing them to make them easy to use. And we wanted to invert that because we want lots of people to use this. And we see that this could be the first sort of every person's language for financial contracts in the blockchain, and I would encourage you to have a try, because that's what it's for. It's for to play around. You can make your own contracts. You can simulate them. You can pay people, pay yourself, buy, sell, loan, all kinds of financial things that can be done here. And as you see, Simon's going to demonstrate in a few minutes. And we really want to open it up to everyone, because Marlowe, in our plan, is going to be around for quite a long time. And you may as well get in to learn it now, because the financial world is rocketing towards DeFi and these dApps. And as it stands now, it's very difficult to learn. We're giving that out to the world, and an easy ramp for anyone to start possibly their career in development.
That's great. So your job really right now is to take this, test it, bring on UAT testers, and ensure that we're going down the path of consumerizing this experience, like you just talked about.
Yeah.
So we will share more of that, with the community and with our audience as we go through this. And this team, this dream team of Shruti, Mike, and Simon, will be with us step by step doing that sort of sharing process. So let's get back to the Marlowe roadmap and the life cycle and the strategy. So Shruti, we talked about this a little bit on the last show about the three-pronged strategy for Marlowe. Recap that a little bit for the audience, and also talk about what can they expect next. So we just rolled out the playground. What are they going to be seeing next?
Yeah, so Marlowe Playground is only the first step in our entire Marlowe story. We do have a three-pronged strategy for Marlowe, which is that, being a DSL, the first one is that we provide an open source product, Marlowe for developers. Then the second one is Marlowe for enterprises. So in this one, we're really aiming to target traditional financial institutions who are looking to digitalize and looking to move to blockchain-enabled solutions. And the third product is our distribution platform for the smart contracts that are developed using the Marlowe Playground and using the Marlowe DSL. And so that third product is the Marlowe for end users product, and it's going to serve as a distribution platform where users can just come in and they can just change certain parameters and values, and they will be able to run the contract without even having to require to be building it from the ground up, because we're going to be developing this extensive smart contract library, and for that we require your help and the open source community help in order to build out this extensive library in terms of replicating all the financial instruments that we have in traditional finance. And really what's helping us build all of this is that we have our standards set up with ACTUS, and we'll be talking more about that in the future as well. So that's our three-pronged strategy. And we realize that this is a fairly grand vision, so we do need to give you a little bit more about what is our short-term milestones regarding this project, right? So with regards to our milestones, throughout until the end of 2020, we're looking to be pushing out and making improvements on the playground. So we'll have our alpha coming out and beta as well towards early 2021. And then following that, we're also looking to put together an on-chain version of Marlowe, which means that you will be able to write your smart contracts and compose your smart contracts, as well as run static analysis on them and do formal verification. But then you will also be able to execute these contracts on the Cardano blockchain. And that version is coming out in the middle of 2021. So look forward to that. We are definitely working on some things right now, and since it is a novel product, we can't give you definitive dates, and we're really accelerating on this product.
Thanks, Shruti. So without further ado, Simon, let's go ahead and unveil the playground.
Okay. So I hope you can all see that I've shared my screen. What you now see is a landing page for the Marlowe Playground. And let's concentrate on what the diagram is saying in the middle there. It's saying in the center of the diagram, you have the Marlowe icon, and we're saying that completely interchangeably, we have this visual version of Marlowe in Blockly. So you can move between the text of Marlowe and the visual arrangement of Blockly in how you look at your programs. But off to the left, we've got arrows coming in, one from Haskell and one from JavaScript. And what we're saying there is that you can use your programming skills in Haskell or JavaScript to help you write contracts, to break them down into smaller portions, name parts of them, use editing facilities that there are supporting those languages. So within those languages, you can create contracts and compile them, convert them into Marlowe. And then on the right-hand side, what you see is we can then simulate those. So something I didn't stress when we talked earlier on was that one of the great things about the playground is that it allows you to see how your programs, your contracts behave. It allows you to see what happens under various choices, under different execution scenarios. So you can see, you can validate your contracts before you run them, before you put cash into them. And also what we have is what's called static analysis. So not only can you try one path through your contract, we can run every path through the contract and guarantee, we can check, for example, whether every path through the contract will succeed or whether there could be a payment could fail on one of those paths. And I'll show you those things when we get to the simulator. But let me start off just opening an example in JavaScript. Let's start there. And what you see now, we've moved into a JavaScript editor. This is the standard editor for JavaScript called Monaco, which is the editor that you see inside Visual Studio Code. So for example, if I mouse over this, it gives me information about all the things I've imported. This is one of the Marlowe constructs when, as it appears in JavaScript. And you see there, we need to have some cases, and we have what's called a timeout. What happens if nobody gives any inputs up to the timeout, and then what we do if the contract, if we reach the timeout. Or if we looked at a pay construct here, you would see that in a pay, there would be a party making the payment, there'd be a person to whom the payment is made. We'd say what token it's in, ADA, for example, what value would be paid, and then the remainder, the remainder of the contract. So again, you can see with mouse over here, we're getting information about all the elements in here. And what we do in the JavaScript is simply, we have to define something called contract in here, which is, we're using the TypeScript version of JavaScript so that we can give you more security about what you're building. So we build the contract, and then we can convert that contract. We press compile. This turns it into Marlowe. So we've done that, and then we can send it to the simulator. Now here we are in the simulator pane. There's quite a bit going on in here, but what we do essentially is we have the Marlowe code sitting here, and we're able to simulate, step through the contract. And let's do that by, I'll click on Start Simulation here. And what the simulation does, it's a smart simulation. It says what actions the contract can do. So you can't, it just tells you the things that will progress the contract. And here it's saying to Alice, Alice, please deposit 450 ADA. So, or 450 Lovelace. And let's do that. And you'll see the contract has evolved. And we see down in the bottom pane, which I can enlarge here just to make it clearer, that there's an account inside the contract belonging to Alice, contains 450 ADA. And then we make a choice. Alice is asked to make a choice, and she chooses 0. And Bob is asked to make a choice. I suppose Bob chooses 1. What we're in the situation that Alice and Bob have not agreed. They've not made the same choice. So Carol is now asked to arbitrate. And so let's see what happens if Carol chooses 1. We'll see that, if we look at the logs, the money has been paid back to Alice. So you can see that we've been able to run through the contract doing that. If I can, at any stage, undo one step, undo again, or indeed I can reset the whole simulation. So one of the things we can do with that is to step backwards and forwards through contracts. But something we can also do is we can analyze to see whether a payment could fail in a contract. So let's click Analyze for Warnings here. And this says the result passed because Alice made a deposit of 450 Lovelace there, and you'll see at the end that there is a payment here of 450. Now let's suppose I make this 449, and then we analyze. You see we get now a warning, and again if I pull this up you can see it more clearly. We got the warning that the contract is supposed to make a payment of 450 ADA from Alice to Bob, but only 449 was available. So we've said this contract can go wrong, and this tells us how, if you look at where my mouse is now, it says the 3 steps that take us to that failed payment. So the great thing about the analysis is if we find an error, if there is an error, we present the error to you so that you can go back and correct it. And you can say, oh, if only I'd put 450 in at the start, or maybe 451, it should all work. And indeed, when I reanalyze, you can see it works fine. So that part of the simulation allows us to validate the contracts that we've written. But let me also show you, we have the visual version of Marlowe. And what we're seeing here is a way of building contracts. This is a visual version of the contract we were playing with in the simulator, but we can use this. If I click on here and delete, we can build a contract up from scratch. And how we do that is by using these menus on the left-hand side. And if I click on contracts, this shows me there are 5 different ways of building a contract. This is the first one. This is one that waits for a user action. So we need to stick an action in this hole. I mean, I could try and stick a contract in there, and you can see it doesn't fit in. It won't go into that hole. But if I choose an action, like a deposit, that will fit in there. And then I can add the things I need to add for a deposit, such as who the person making the deposit is. Let's say that's Alice. And I can then put in things like amounts. I can put in what currency we're using, which here is ADA. I can put in a value of, let's say, 1,000. So we're able to build up these contracts, and we see that this is a great way of seeing what Marlowe can do. In each case, you click on contracts, you see all the possible contracts. Click on actions, you see all the possible actions. Click on token, you see all the possible tokens. So it gives you a way of exploring what Marlowe gives you. So there we've seen the Blockly view of building a contract. And if we go, let me open another example. And if I open this example in JavaScript, I can compile it, send it to the simulator, and then view it in Blockly. So I've got this chance to take these different views and then send it, so I can move between the Blockly and the simulator. So what I like to do now is show you in particular an example which I've saved here called Kraken. And this is an example of us using, excuse me, let me just move this down. This is us using an oracle to get information from live from an exchange. And let's see what this does. Let's start the simulation. And what you see here, party 1, now that looks like a huge amount of ADA. In fact, we're measuring things in Lovelace, so it's 500 Lovelace, 500 ADA, sorry. So that value is being put into the account by party 1. So that's inside the contract. And now you see we've got this participant called Kraken, and this isn't any ordinary participant. This is the live Kraken exchange, and this is giving us the live value of the dollar ADA conversion. And so we feed that into our contract, and then we get the appropriate swap value. So what we're doing now is paying these amount of dollars for the corresponding amount of ADA. We make that payment, and then the contract terminates. And if we look at the log, move up a bit, you can see what we had. We deposited the ADA, we reached out to Kraken, and we got the value for the oracle, and then we converted the ADA into dollars, and we swapped those values between the two parties. So you can see this is just this is a proof of concept. It shows you how you can use Oracle information inside contracts. And what we will be doing as we move towards version 1.0 is we'll be building that Oracle in a secure way into the Cardano infrastructure, so that you can guarantee, we'll be using signed values from exchanges, so we can guarantee that you're getting accurate values, unspoofable values of oracles that we use in the playground, that we use in the contract, in the live contract itself. What you're seeing here is a simulation of what will be there. And just one last thing before I stop. Tucked away in the corner, we have two things: a tutorial, so a comprehensive tutorial about which is updated for the latest version of the playground. And here we have ACTUS Labs, and this is under active development. This is the place where we can generate ACTUS contracts of various sorts. So here at the moment we have implemented principle of maturity, which is a loan. And what we're able to do is we're able to synthesize contracts like this. We describe the terms of the contract using another version of Blockly. So here we've got a start date of the 1st of October this year, end date of the 1st of October next year. Let's say November, then it's all in the future. And we have a value, a notional amount, which is, we're saying is 1,000. And from this, we're able to generate a static loan contract, which you see here. It's built with a party and a counterparty. You can see initially there's a deposit. There's a deposit of 1,000, which is paid to the issuer. And then at the end, the issuer will pay the money back in, and it's paid back to the person who gave the loan. But if we go back to ACTUS Labs, we can add a premium or a discount here, so that we can say, actually, you're going to pay something for that loan. So let's say we have a premium discount of 100. If we then generate a contract, you will see that the payment to by the person making the loan is 1,000, whereas the amount paid back is 1,100. So we're able to build these different versions of the contracts, and using ACTUS Labs, we can present the terms of the contract in this visual way. And this will be something we'll be developing over the next few months. We had a really nice entry to a hackathon in Wyoming, where one of the teams that won the Cardano challenge have augmented this with a LAM contract, and we hope to be including that very soon. But let me stop. I've probably gone on too long, so let me stop here.
No, that was great, Simon. And what I really like about the playground and what we're doing here is we're bringing two concepts that are quite heavy, financial contracts with there's regulations and all the different twists and turns within what you need to do, and then blockchain and decentralized technology, and bringing those two together in a very easy to understand format. I mean, it was what, a 5-minute presentation that you did, and I think I'm also ready to get going and playing around with the playground as well. And I'm sure our users are as well. So nice job, Shruti, Mike, and Simon on this. It's a long time coming, so congratulations on getting us this far, and looking forward to the journey ahead with Marlowe. And to wrap that up, Shruti, any last words?
Yeah, let's reiterate some of the things that we've already spoken about, and also about some next steps that we're taking. So we're going to be setting up a engagement channel for developers. So this could be somewhat of a Telegram channel. We're figuring out the logistics around that, but we'll be announcing that soon as well. We realized that, as you're able to start playing around with the smart contracts on this playground, that you might also want to speak with the product team, as well as engage a little bit more with the developers that actually built these products. So that will be one of the things that we're doing next. And then also following that, last time in the last Cardano update show, we gathered some folks to conduct exploratory interviews as well as usability testing. So the next one that we're going to do is we're going to be running some exploratory open-ended interviews with financial subject matter experts, And we will also be doing usability testing on the playground with some developers. So those two things are coming underway. And in the next clip, we will also be discussing a little bit more about why we decided to integrate with ACTUS. So ACTUS is a financial contracts standard. And we'll be speaking with Willi Brammertz from the ACTUS Foundation in order to expose why ACTUS was built, its grand value propositions, as well as its vision for the financial industry. So stay tuned for that.
All right. Awesome job, guys. See you next time.
Right. Cheers.
Bye. Thanks very much.
Bye.
All right, folks. So we have Willi Brammertz from the ACTUS Foundation here today with us. And we also have Simon Thompson from the Marlowe team. And today we will be talking a little bit about what ACTUS is, a little bit more about ACTUS, and why we integrate ACTUS with Marlowe. So let's get started. Willi, why don't you give us an introduction of yourself? I mean, you've written quite a few books in financial analysis and so forth. So tell us a little bit more about your background and what you are doing with ACTUS as well.
Yeah, so my background is financial. I'm in the industry now 33 years, pretty old for fintech. You were not born maybe then. But I was always thrilled understanding what finance really means. And I figured out that the financial contract, understanding the financial contract is really the central piece. And that those contracts follow certain patterns, which can be well described as algorithms. And that I founded firms, I sold them, and did a lot of things. But finally, this was then incorporated in ACTUS as an open source.
Mm-hmm. Very good overview. And so now that we know a little bit about ACTUS and the motivation behind ACTUS, why don't we also talk about Marlowe and ACTUS? And so Simon, could you tell us a little bit more about what adopting ACTUS means for smart contracts that are composed using Marlowe?
Okay, well, I think it was really key for us to get out. We designed a language based on what people had done in the past for using functional languages for describing financial contracts. We wanted to adapt that for blockchain, but we wanted to get a sense that what we were doing was right and was powerful enough to encapsulate the sorts of contract that people would want to use in practice. And so the ACTUS standard was a fantastic resource for us. It was a taxonomy of different kinds of contracts. It had detailed technical specifications of things, both high-level things and details of calculating schedules and so on, how to handle dates and so on. So it's been a really good benchmarking procedure for us. But also we see that this is a key set of libraries that we want to implement, because we see it as a way to provide many of our users with contracts they can simply download, instantiate, and run, so that they can get into the market of financial contracts on blockchain without actually having to do any coding themselves. They can see there are these contracts from a standards body. They can download that. They can put in their own. They can instantiate it the way they want, and then just get going. So it's a great product for us to offer, but it's also a great check for us that we're going down the right path.
That's fantastic. And that's the great thing about standardization, right? That it allows you to eliminate that ambiguity in contracts being a complete language that ACTUS is. It's also non-Turing complete. And, having that standardization also allows us to be consistent as well as make readable smart contracts. And ACTUS allows us to also make sure that it's very much tailored and domain specific to the financial industry, so that it really improves ease of use for people in the financial industry. So coming back to ACTUS a little bit more, a lot of these things do seem like it relates very, very closely to digital assets. So how do ACTUS contracts relate to digital assets, and more specifically to smart contracts as well? Can you talk about that a little bit, Willi?
Yeah. I already said that the financial contract, what I understood, by the way, that was in my PhD thesis, that it is a set of certain patterns which can be represented by algorithms. Actually, they were always algorithms. Although it's hard to see if you look at the paper contract, written in legal terms, so the algorithm is hidden. That's why so many people know that. but at the end, in its essence, it is an algorithm. So what do we have in a financial contract? First of all, we have payments over time, which are connected by algorithms. We saw it has an initial state, algorithms, and it goes from one to the next thing. And the payments, what are they? These are cash flows. And what are cash flows? Numbers. So, and numbers can be fully represented by computers. Actually, the financial contract is the only contract which has this unique position. It's only numbers. Huh? If I buy a financial contract, I pay with money, with cash. And what do I get? Cash. So you only exchange cash. So the financial contract is the candidate for digital assets, to be fully represented by digital assets. This and cash, of course, as you have it in a cash position. So the financial contract is by nature a digital asset. We just make it now truly digital. Huh? So that's the first thing. And ACTUS, of course, as a standard, represents that digital asset. It's fully described as you have that. Coming to the smart financial contract, and I say financial contract, because the financial contract has that kind of feature of being truly representable by code. This is already clear. We can represent financial contracts by code. They are code by anything. And if you look at the definition of a smart contract, if you follow Szabo's definition, we have the 4 conditions. One is the observability. That is well given by the blockchain. So everybody can see the contract, and there should be no dispute. You know, what is the contract? The second is verifiability. That means everybody can understand the same contract the same way, and that is given by ACTUS, by the definition of ACTUS, and by the standard. The third one is enforceability, and that's actually the combination of observability and verifiability. Then you can enforce it. There's always yet a little lawyer possibility, you know, so I don't think we get 100% rid of that, but it's like 99.999%. You know, there's no argument, you know, it's well defined, it's everything. Finally, there's yet the 4th condition, is privity. And that is not, that you have to look to make sure yourself. The blockchain doesn't really guarantee that. I think the blockchain is even not the best place for that, if it's a public blockchain.
For sure. Yeah, and the fact that, you know, human language is quite limited, and so any legal contract that we put together in human language would be only readable as so far as a human can interpret it. But by making it algorithmic, we're able to have these 4 properties, which is really fantastic. So could you tell us also a little bit more about the history of ACTUS and why it was founded, and the value proposition of ACTUS?
Yeah. As I mentioned before, you know, I did business, and first I wrote my PhD thesis on that topic. What is a financial contract? And understanding that everything you do in finance has to do with those financial contracts, and almost everything of interest in finance derives from the contract. And so that was the general understanding. From there, I founded a firm called IRIS, where we built enterprise-wide risk systems. You know, that you control an entire bank. That is what I did. The product was called Risk Pro, sold worldwide, very successful, and we sold it in 2008. Actually, on 28 September 2008, which, if you might remember, you saw those guys walking out with the boxes from Lehman, if you remember that.
Yes, yes.
At the same time we are signing, you know. I got only really understood it only after that, really fully. But we signed on that date. And it was bought successfully. It's now really well established in another firm. And then I didn't want to do it again, really, but the idea of the contract, I knew it's very important, and that has to become open source. Then I met Alan Mendelowitz. Luckily, you know, he was a really top guy in Washington. He was, among others, the head of the Federal Home Loan Board. So it's a regulator. So he was in the eye of the storm, and he by then was retired, but he knew that he didn't know anything. That's how he expressed it himself as the regulator, and that it is possible to know. And then we met, and there we then said, okay, let's do that public, the open source thing, and that became ACTUS at the end of the day. So which now represents these financial contracts, which now is getting traction a lot, yes, among others with Cardano.
Yeah. I mean, congratulations. Recently, it was announced that the Federal Deposit and Insurance Commission of the United States also selected ACTUS as one of the 14 companies to modernize financial reporting. Could you talk a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, so it's not only the FDIC, we have a very strong relationship also with the Bank of England, with the FCA, where we have a similar target. The FDIC is very concrete, so they really want to see now something. So the idea is to modernize finance in the sense that the data which the regulator is using is essentially the same the banks themselves can use. So to improve the quality much, if you look at regulation today, it's a real dead-end loss, really, to be honest. And that means there are a lot of reports created, very little understanding gotten out of that. And now they want to create now a system where where the situation is improved in a way that, for example, the same data is used for the management of your own bank as for reporting. So that it's much better quality. It's of data, which will help improve the banks internally as well. It will reduce the regulatory burden, which is immense. And so that will come down, and the quality will drastically increase. So that's the general topic of that effort. And I think it's very important for the blockchain world. You know, we look down a little bit at the banks and say, okay, they're pretty bad and so on. That's a little bit, and they did create a big mess, because this idea of a standardized representation of a financial contract really missing, and that is the base of the mess. But if we would not follow them, the things which you are following now, and you're leading the way here, then we would have even a much worse situation on the blockchain. Now, the problem in banks is that we have thousands or hundreds of systems, maybe thousands, where each system does the same thing really totally differently, so that you can't aggregate it anymore. And if we don't have a standard on the blockchain, then we do not have thousands of systems, we have millions. So everybody is programming its own little thing.
Yeah.
And you know, the variables are different. Even if you do exactly the same thing at the end, it's so different you can't understand it anymore. So
that's a really good point. You know, I think this is one of the key problems that we have in fintech today. Just integrating with legacy systems, and all of the legacy systems themselves haven't integrated with each other. So you need to consolidate those, and then you need to consolidate that with our digitalized blockchain-based systems. So it's very it's a very tough challenge.
If I may add here something yet, it's, you know, in all the fintech world, everything is challenged, but what currently is not challenged is the core. The core. They always, you know, you do like nice apps for onboarding, for face recognition, you know, all these nice things which you need in the bank as well. But then when it comes to the core, they say, okay, they go to one of the core systems, and they are really deep 20th century, you know, and they are the reason of the mess. Or one big reason of the mess. And by offering now ACTUS as a standard, with this we can overcome that. We can build much better cores, much better systems.
Very well. Well, I think we have a big challenge ahead of us, but also a very optimistic light now that we have actually started bringing out and rolling out Marlowe. So, Simon, a little bit more about your idea on bringing together Marlowe and ACTUS and integrating them. What do you think that integration will bring to Cardano community and to the financial industry in the broader sense?
Well, as I say, I think it makes things that could be difficult for a large number of users much easier. It lowers the barrier to entry to people, so that a lot of these very simple contracts, things that are a swap of two assets or a loan, perhaps with some interest payments, those sorts of things can be are codified in ACTUS, and we can present those to users. And also we can present things at different levels of dynamism. We have a trade-off between allowing people, for example, a version of a contract where their risk factors can change through the life of a contract, where they might want to make out of schedule payments, and other versions of contracts which are entirely static. And there's a trade-off between those. The ones that are static, they're easy to read, the Marlowe code, they're easy to verify. We can see that we can easily see that the contract does what it should do. No payments will be made under appropriate circumstances. Whereas if we move to the more dynamic, where we might have more interactions with the contract, then we can still provide guarantees, but perhaps not as strong guarantees. So we're learning about the different, that trade-off between, if you like, power and trust. So the simple contracts are entirely trustworthy. The more powerful ones, you have to make more assumptions in order to trust them. So that's one area we're looking at. We're also looking at, we've taken an example of principal at maturity contracts. What we're doing now is replicating that. And we see that as a way of bringing in developers into our community. We've done, as a result of a hackathon in Wyoming that's been running for the last month, the winners of a Cardano challenge there were a group who extended our ACTUS implementation to include another of the contract types in the ACTUS taxonomy. And that was really nice to see. So this provides a mechanism by which we can build our community through extending the provision that we have. So I think that those are the two directions that we're thinking about.
May I add something, just a little hint for you, Simon? We are introducing prepayment directly in ACTUS. If you then have any unscheduled payment, you only tell ACTUS if there is a prepayment, and it knows what to do.
Oh, cool. Okay. Oh,
keep your eye open. Yeah.
Okay.
It's developing, and maybe we can contribute, or you can contribute. So that's a good one. So it's coming very soon. We do that together with that other project.
Okay. Oh, that's really interesting. Thank you. Oh, that's So it's nice to see these things converging.
So now you make progress, right?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's awesome. Well, thank you, folks, for coming on board, and thanks so much, Willi from ACTUS, for talking a little bit more about the organization and what the standards and algorithmic financial standards mean for the overall industry and also for Cardano. And thank you, Simon, for talking about the integration between Marlowe and ACTUS. It was really a pleasure. Thanks, folks.
Yeah. Thank you. Shruti.
Great to talk to you.
Bye-bye, Simon.
Nice to see you, Willi. Good to see you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, of course, ACTUS, an important industry body and an important partner. And I think, again, one of the ways that we're really going to accelerate the deployment of Marlowe over the months ahead as well. Now, Aparna, you met another partner today, I believe. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is another DSL play, or domain-specific language, but a little different. It's developed by Mutual Knowledge Systems, so it's another company, and the language is called Glow that they developed. I caught up with their co-founder, who goes by Fare, and we call him Fare, but his full name is François-René Rideau. And just check out the next clip. It's a good partnership. We're going in the right direction in terms of ecosystem plays, and it also shows how Cardano can become this whole bedrock of activity for that whole utility pillar that is known as Goguen. Right, so community, excited to bring on a special guest onto our show this month. This is actually a partner of ours that came from the community, François-René Rideau, and he goes by Fare, but he is the co-founder and CEO of Mutual Knowledge Systems. For short, it's known as MU, and I'm sure the community has heard this because Charles has spoken about this a little in his AMAs. And Francois, or Fare, I apologize, Fare. So you actually have been in this space for 25 plus years, right? Building software and open source and
software, yes. And even I started like my career proving the correctness of a centralized payment protocol. So it was, I've been in a way in there for a long time. Cryptocurrency only since 2014. I was an early member of the Tezos community. And then I discovered Cardano recently, and last year we met at the Cardano Summit in Miami, and I found that I really like the community, so yeah, I really want to work with people there. So I'm excited to be a part of the Cardano community and to work with Cardano to port my language Glow to the Cardano platform.
That's great, Fari. So Mutual Knowledge Systems, that's the name of the company, and it's
yes.
Tell me a little bit about the motivation around how you started Mutual Knowledge Systems.
Ooh, almost 3 years ago, I was reviewing lots of white papers, and you know, white papers are those that understand the techniques and don't understand the economics, and that's very. So it makes something that doesn't make sense. Some understand the economics, but don't really understand the economics. That don't make sense. And there are maybe 20% of them. And there are like just 5% of white papers that really understand both the economics and the techniques and the computer part. And that are the good ones. Cardano has a lot of the good ones. And while reading some of the bad ones, he said that I can do better than that. And I started designing a scaling solution. And then I asked a friend what he thought of it, and he said, "Why don't you do it with smart contracts?" And at first I was like, "No, this is impossible. It doesn't even make sense." And while trying to prove him wrong, I discovered that he was right, and it made sense. It was the right thing, and I finally understood what smart contracts were for, and that I hadn't understood for many years, and that's how it started. And at first, I tried to make a company around a scaling solution, but soon enough, we discovered that the really original part about our design was the language approach or the logic approach to doing things. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we pivoted, and now we have this new company called Mutual Knowledge Systems, or MOON for Mutual Knowledge, that is built around this programming language we call Glow. And we think it's a great way to write applications much better than the existing technologies.
Yes, Glow that's a very interesting paper. So if you go to your website, and anybody can either, I'm telling the audience, they can go to your website and check out the white paper as well. And your white paper is actually very easy to read through. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
It was a good one for us to read through. And there were quite a few things around Glow that I found interesting. You know, your value proposition, of course, me being a product lead, but for me, the value proposition about the faster and the portable way the language works and the simpler way. I mean, those are things that strike my mind share a lot. So just from you're the co-founder of it. So when it comes to Glow, maybe give our community a little synopsis on what the value proposition is, why this is important, and what makes it special.
Okay, so I believe that writing a DApp, a decentralized app, is the single hardest thing there is in the world. And why it is the hardest? Because one, you can't afford any single mistake. If you have a mistake, it's too late to fix it, so your money is gone, and that's too late. Two, all software is hard, and the existing tools don't tackle the difficulty of writing a DApp. Three, it's not just that you're fighting random errors, you're fighting active adversaries. If you make a mistake, it's not just if the moon is full and it's raining and it's a 10th of the month, something goes wrong. No. The attacker will make it so that the moon is full and it's the 10th of the month and it's raining, and he will contrive to make all the bad things happen. So you don't fight random accidents, you fight active adversaries. And Other people who fight active adversaries, for instance, are the military, but the military can guard their software behind armed guards, and they can remain secret. But in a DApp, all the parts that are fragile are in the public to view. The other people you don't trust, you must show them the DApp for them to participate. So if there's a bug, it will be seen. You can't hide it. Mm-hmm. And the last part is that all the current tools to reason about software are not made to reason about software with people who don't trust each other. All the formal tools and informal tools are about all the parts of the software conspire toward the result, but in a DApp, that's exactly the part you cannot trust. The fact that there are people who don't conspire together but act against each other. So you need a new set of formal tools and reasoning techniques to do that. Absolutely. So all of these things means that writing software for the blockchain is so much harder than anything else that you may write, and the current tools are just not sufficient or not designed for it. And I come from the Lisp community where we like to think that to write a program, you should write it in a language, in the ideal language you'd like to write the program in, and have what we call a domain-specific language. If I had the best language just for this application, what would I use? Mm-hmm. And then you write your application in that language, and then you write this language in Lisp. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm thinking, what is the ideal language I would like to write a DApp? And I'm designing this language. And then I'm implementing this ideal language in Lisp. I don't try to say, hey, let's start from an existing language and modify it a bit. No, let's start from the DApp and the simplest thing. So the language must make the DApp thing the simplest, the really simplest. And that's the power of simplicity and the power of abstraction, which allows us then to do all the reasoning. If you have 1 million lines of code, you will never find all the bugs and solve your problem of having 0 bugs in your program. But if you have the simplest program possible, it's only 1,000 lines of code or 10,000 lines of code, then you stand a chance. And so it's all about reducing the complexity to the max, like finding the simplest formula possible. And only then can we hope to have applications that do not have bugs and therefore that can run on the blockchain.
Safari, I really like how you thought that through, and you did think it through, and it obviously your experience and you're telling the story as is. It is a difficult thing, and how you're constructing the language and what you're trying to do with the domain-specific language is really target that usability aspect of it. So that was one of the reasons why we felt this was also going to be a great partnership. Now, speaking of the partnership, I'm going to ask you a two-part question right here. With Glow, so the idea is to port Glow onto Cardano and have some kind of interoperability for us. Yep. So one, why Cardano, right? I know we met in the Miami Summit and all of that, but why Cardano? And then two, what is this going to do for the Cardano community?
So why Cardano? Actually, I started like everybody on Ethereum because it's the platform that is there, works, and that most people use. But when I met the Cardano people, I really felt, I think we think in the same ways. We want to do things that are correct, things that work. We're thinking about the long run. We're not thinking just about, oh, it kind of works today, but it has holes in it. That a lot of people in the Ethereum community think like that. It has holes in it, but it's okay, we'll survive. And I must admit they do remarkably well for that mentality, but that's not my mentality. My mentality is more like that of Cardano, people who really want to make the right thing that works, that will still be there in 20 years, and that will be rock solid. And that's what I really like about the Cardano community. Like building, not building on quicksand, but building on stone, building on
right, great foundation, absolutely.
Great foundations. And sometimes it's frustrating that things go slow. I'm frustrated with that too, but I'm really happy about the attention to detail and quality in the Cardano community and doing the right thing. So is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but I think it has good fundamentals, and that's what I'm betting on. good fundamentals, great fundamentals.
Thank you, Farai. That's true. I mean, that's why we chose Haskell, and it's always been a little bit of a tug of war with timing versus, how robust is the code. But I'm with you. I feel like we're building for something to last and last the length that beyond us, right? When you're doing that, you want to make sure that it's done right, and that doesn't mean we take forever to do it. How we can always do it in pieces, but I do agree in formal methodology and then in testing and verifying. And then even quick failures within those, right? How do we get to a stage of quick failures and also leverage the partnership ecosystem? Because one thing about this industry that I've learned coming from the outside is it's very insular. And if we want the adoption to be really a worldwide phenomenon, like a disruptive and event in a way from the legacy systems out there, the centralized systems that are out there, it's not only about education, but it's also partnerships. Like we have to build bridges amongst each other to ensure that we adopt. And that's what I like about our partnership and what we're doing here is you're going to be bringing to the community a whole different angle of tools and people that can build dApps and a different language set as well. So I'm pretty excited. I look at this as a partnership.
And speaking of bridges, I think one of the big things about Glow is that Glow is portable. Today, it's only targeting Ethereum and Cardano, but in the future, it will target any blockchain that is sufficiently advanced. And that means that you will be able to write your application once and run it wherever. And so as an application developer, you will not have to choose. You don't have, I'm betting on Cardano, I'm betting on Ethereum, I'm betting on Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin or Tezos or whatever. You will write your application for the blockchain. And then which blockchain will you deploy on? Well, on the best or the one that brings something that is special to the application or just that has the best value. And that's why we will make the blockchains compete on their intrinsic value. And I think that's important, having this language that will allow users to be portable and allow the blockchains to shine on their actual value rather than on, we happen to hook the right customer at the right point. And yeah, but now they won't be hooked. So they won't be hooked to you, but they also won't be hooked to the others. They will be able to decide what actually brings value to them. What is a robust, solid value proposition.
Yeah, and that's a good piece for the interoperability bit. And then our bet on Cardano is just, it's the bedrock, right? So we were talking about the concrete foundation layer.
Yes.
So these languages, these domain-specific languages or the dApp languages or even the interoperations and the bridges that we're creating, it's sitting on top of an extremely robust infrastructure. And everything that was built from the network stack to the ledgers to the consensus protocol, everything is going towards solving a pain point in the system, whether it be speed, whether it be transaction costs, whether it be metadata, whether it be security, right? So there are quite a few of those things that we're betting our house on, obviously, by putting it on that bedrock. So we're excited to bring you guys on board. I wanted to leave this off. It's really great to have you here, Farai. I know we're going to see more of you as we move forward through the relationship. But just want to leave this off on what can the community expect in terms of showcasing what we're working on together?
Well, we will launch Glow at the same time as Bluetooth, which I don't know when that will be exactly, but in the next few months. Already, we have something we could show. We could show at the next show next month or the month after. What we have right now, it's not production ready, but Bluetooth is not production ready either. But we can already demonstrate our simple applications. You can write how a 20-line application that you can write in our language can be equivalent to hundreds of lines in other languages. And I have to admit that the Bluetooth platform fares better than, say, JavaScript plus Solidity or something else. But I think we still bring some simplicity over that because we have a language that is domain-specific, oriented towards interactions between multiple people who don't trust each other, and that's important.
With that, thank you, Faria, for appearing on the show. Appreciate your time. And
Thank you for having me.
All right, so that's Goguen, and let's pivot and move to another pillar around Voltaire.
Voltaire, yes, of course, and Project Catalyst. And look, I always love talking to Dor. He's just such a barrel of positive energy. So I caught up with him a little bit earlier today just to get the latest updates on Project Catalyst and some pretty exciting numbers coming out of that project. So let's take a look at that clip now. Hi, Dor. How you doing? Another busy month on the Project Catalyst program. You've got a few bits of news for us and some interesting statistics, I think, as well, haven't you? Perhaps you want to share a few of those and let us know how it's all going.
Yeah, I'd love to, Tim. Thanks for calling me in. Yeah, we've been really busy and just basically experiencing like really high growth, and I think we can safely determine now that we are the biggest decentralized organization in the world. So like how do I know this? How did we determine this? I want to share some slides, just share with the community some statistics. Okay, so what you're seeing in front of you right now is a screenshot I took from a website called DeepDAO. So what DeepDAO, this website does, and it's a really nice website, by the way, is it aggregates data from different decentralized organizations from across all the blockchains and gives some statistics about them. So you can see here the top 5 DAOs in the world. You can see that all of them are on the Ethereum network, and so let's look at what's ranked number 1, PyDAO by Aragon. Okay, so it has controls around $80 million in value. It has almost 2,000 members. It has 1 proposal, 6 people voting. Okay, you have this number 3 P network. It has 1,210 members. Okay, and maybe if you look at number 5, DXDAO, you can see they have 106 voters. All right, so let's compare it to what we've got. How we're doing so far. So we have right now 96 proposals on the ballot. We have 673 people who registered as community advisors, 127 who actually made an assessment and participating, over 1,780 assessments that were given to proposers. We have 3,345 members. All right, so that is basically almost double, okay, the largest DAO. So we're basically, in terms of membership, we are definitely the largest by a significant margin. And we have 719 people on our announcement Telegram, which is the place, and I hope you'll share a link at that point, because that's the place to be if you want to get informed about the latest and the next actions. And lastly, we just released this week a very early beta version of our voting app, and we already have about 2,000 app downloads. So let's dream together, okay? Let's say that every person, we're probably going to get a lot more downloads by the time voting starts. But let's imagine that every person that downloads the app actually going to register to vote and participate. That would mean we are basically will be the 20x, more participants in voting than any other DAO in the world. So, even if we look at the amount of funds that are controlled by the Treasury, we are number 1. We're kind of close to the other one that controls about $80 million. That's around like the amount we're controlling per year in Treasury. All right, so, and this is kind of astounding because this thing, we did it on the course of 7 weeks. We are just getting started. So there's so much excitement and energy in the community. I really have to, I really want to push on people to join our live town halls. They're really amazing. We have around 150 to 200 people participating live, and then like several thousands of people that are tuning into the recording. So I hope you can be there and contribute and be part of this really special process. And besides that, we had this week was all about assessing the proposals. So this is the final stage before proposals get voted on the ballot. So we asked a bunch, we had a lot of people from the community that made reviews. They reviewed each proposal according to impact, feasibility, and auditability. And we can see that so in the initial experiment, we set for ourselves, we want to make sure that every proposal on the ballot gets sufficient coverage. And we set for ourselves, we want each proposal to get at least three reviews, 3 separate assessments. And we got a lot more. We got the proposal that got the least amount of assessment was 13 assessments. On average, each proposal got 18.3 different assessments. So that's 18 different people who reviewed each proposal and gave them a ranking. And each advisor basically gave 14 assessments. So this is really great engagement. And another thing that we're just blowing every other DAO out of the water by a large margin. That's really impressive. And lastly, I just want to give you a bit of an update what's going to happen in the next week. It's going to be pretty exciting. So first of all, we are enabling people to register to vote, not only through a special version of Daedalus, that's going to be like let's say the common version for the regular Cardano user. We recommend using this method, but we're also going to have a special CLI tool mostly for stake pool operators that can use, and we're going to have during the town hall, we're going to have a workshop around using this tool to register to vote, led by our own very own IOHK Samuel Leathers. We're going to publish all the assessments and the reviews in the proposals in ID scale. We're going to give you a detailed review of how the user flow works if you want to register to vote, what are the actions necessary. And we're going to continue with your own initiative, the ID Fest. So basically publishing over Twitter short summaries of proposals and encourage the community to inform themselves about what kind of proposals are on the ballot for Fund 2. And hopefully that will help us make even better decisions. And on ID scale itself, we're going to continue with the discussions and commenting on the proposals themselves and the merits of proposals. And this week we launched a new experiment about, we call it the expert ballot recommendation. So basically, groups of people are going to offer for you, the voter, like a recommendation how to fill the entire ballot for Fund 2. So not just looking at assessment per proposal, but also kind of like seeing the larger picture. So this is just another step in our evolution for collective intelligence and good decision making. And I'm really proud of our community. They're really stepping up. So really thank you everybody for your participation. It's very inspiring.
So some very impressive headline numbers there, Dor, but also fantastic to see the level of engagement and creativity that we've managed to generate as a community around the platform. We've actually got a little bit more about a few of those ideas on today's show as well, as people will know. But look, Dor, thanks very much. We'll leave you to get back to work and keep moving things forwards in such a brilliant way. We'll see you very soon, Dor. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So Tim, Doors said this before, right? The world's largest DAO, and he's actually got the numbers to back it up for Project Catalyst. So that's very impressive. But what's even more impressive is to get to that numbers. It's really around community involvement, and we've had great community involvement.
Yeah, I mean, as Doors said, the energy and the commitment and the engagement that we're seeing from the community, as well as the raw data, is very impressive. And I think we've got around over 90 ideas which are now on the platform, ready for the voting stage later on. Now, actually, one of the ideas on there is a proposition called Liquid, which also entered the Wyoming Hackathon and won the Sustainable Blockchain Award there as well. So I wanted to catch up with one of the guys behind the project, DeWayne. I spoke to him earlier just to hear more about the product and his involvement in Project Catalyst. DeWayne, welcome to the show, and thanks very much for joining us. Very exciting to have you on here. First of all, congratulations. Winner of the WYO Hackathon for your idea, Liquid. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on. So Liquid is all about building a decentralized financial market on top of Cardano's infrastructure. We thought about the current markets that we see in the CeFi world, when we see the money markets that are forming across Africa's mobile infrastructure. Our co-founder, Josh Apkin, is from Nigeria in Port Harcourt. And we thought about the CeFi lending apps like OPay and these kind of competitors and how they exist in the current markets. We also thought about the DeFi systems on Ethereum and what the Compound and Aavs of the world offer today. And we tried to offer a situation and a solution really that's much more robust and puts the borrower and the lender at the center of the value chain in terms of reimagining the system of banking, in terms of reimagining the system of investing in money markets as an idea and as a concept. We think that using things like Atala Prism and using some of the primitives that we get with Cardano, we will really be able to build a more robust solution that, like I said, really kind of reimagines the center of that value chain. But yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you discovered Cardano and kind of got in the ecosystem to start with.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually one of my favorite to answer. Back in 2017, I was in business school. I was in Northern England studying at Durham University. And I was so new to so many concepts around trading and even just getting into the idea of stocks and paper trading. At the time, Tesla and Apple was like the coolest thing to me. I had roommates who were, telling me about crypto, and they were kind of into the whole movement. Ethereum was like a really up and coming blockchain at that time. We're talking Q2 of 2017, really. I learned more about Cardano as it was coming on, and I saw the Charles Hoskinson whiteboard video. And pretty much from then on, I've been, in many ways a part of this community and kind of a key advocate online on Twitter and kind of Reddit, and really trying to help guide some of the idea flow. Some of the things that I see just happening on other blockchains and some of the concepts, thinking how can we take the best and kind of lead the rest, and use the primitives that IOHK is building into Cardano pretty much out of the box for the developers, for the builders to come and use. But really my start of it was back in 2017 in business school. And I've kind of been on the ride ever since.
And of course, most recently, you've been involved in the Catalyst project as well, Project Catalyst. How's that experience been, and how does that tie in with this idea?
Yeah, Project Catalyst is great. Being a part of the Fund 1 and kind of Harrison's to start, watching Door really just galvanize a group of individuals around the globe and say, hey, if Cardano is the thing that ties us and ADA is the glue that bonds us all, how do we build solutions that bring in developers and businesses to use this platform in their everyday lives? Like, what are the ideas that will bring real world utility to this platform? And I just think of, the team that Dor and Anna have built and the ideas that are now flowing through Idea Scale and on the forums and Reddit. And it's really, it's kind of, we've grown up so much even since the Fund 1 a couple months ago. But now in Fund 2, we can really see some real projects with real legs on them and plans to launch in Cardano in the next 6 months and what that's going to do for the entire ecosystem. I think it's been great to be a part of this process. We're now in the finalized stage, so all the community advisors are taking a look at these proposals and they're giving good feedback and they're ranking them, and that's what the voters are going to see in the app. So up until this point, it's really been trying to put forth the best proposal that we could come up with, and we'll still have time after this to refine it as such. But just really want to thank Dor and the team for putting together such a structured governance system so early on in Cardano's kind of Voltaire experience.
Well, I mean, your idea is obviously one of the standouts, and it's been sort of recognized as part of the Wire Hackathon activity. But I think we've got well over 90 ideas now that are kind of going to be going into the next stage, which is ultimately voting from the community and looking for funding. So that is obviously going to be your next objective, but perhaps give us a little bit of a roadmap. If you're successful, or when you're successful with your funding request, what's the next stage and what does success look like?
Sure, absolutely. So maybe I'll start with kind of what we did for the Wyoming Hackathon and what success looks like moving on from there. So our developers, 2 core developers based in Melbourne, Australia, used Marlowe and extended the Haskell data structure to basically build our base set of smart contracts for the Liquid protocol. So the things that allow a borrower to be able to engage the protocol to take out a loan, or a supplier to be able to deposit Cardano assets and earn interest on those into the protocol. Those kind of base 5 smart contracts, including the liquidate contract function, were all built and developed in Marlowe and submitted for the Wyoming Hackathon. Now there's a ton of upgrading, parameterizing those things, building them in Plutus to include some functionality that we couldn't get in Marlowe at this current time. So all of that is kind of happening right now behind the scenes, and that's leading up to the funding of Project Catalyst, which will really kickstart the development with our partners App Inventive and Tweeg. So we basically reached out to them and said, Liquid has a core development team, but we'd really like to scale up our ability to develop an MVP and launch it on Plutus testnet within the next 6 months. The App Inventive and Tweeg, development partners joining our team and joining our forces kind of give us that ability and that bandwidth. In the case of Tweeg, they're great at Haskell, and they've basically helped implement the Plutus platform on Cardano the way we see it today. So we feel great about working with them as a strategic guide and audit for our internal team. In the case of App Inventive, a blockchain development group from Northern India, they have a lot of experience working on Ethereum and specifically DeFi protocols, liquidity pooling systems like Fulcrum and DYDX. So we feel great about working with them as well, especially when we're talking about implementing our desktop UI and mobile dApp. So the merging of these 2 teams and having Liquid in the middle is really kind of our key selling point as a project in Project Catalyst right now, trying to stand apart from the other great proposals out there. So yeah.
So any final message to any member of the community who hasn't got involved with Project Catalyst yet? You're saying it's a worthwhile experience from the building side of things as well. Any other message for the community there?
Yeah, just that this is going to be a community-led project from the very start. We have concepts around DAO and setting up an autonomous organization, and concepts of a community-led delegation process. And we really would love your input. Join us on Discord. Join us on Twitter, Reddit, Telegram. We really kind of want everyone's thoughts on this because we're building this for the Cardano community and for the global community in large. So if we can get more feedback from you guys at the start of this process, to my thinking, that's the best way to go. So thank you guys.
Fantastic, and thank you, and congratulations again. Cheers.
Thanks, Tim. Cheers.
Okay, so we should also give a shout out to the other winners of the Wyoming Hackathon. We've dropped some links below so you can check out their ideas as well. So congratulations to all of our winners. Thank you very much. And also, good luck to everybody who's got an idea on Project Catalyst. And we hope that you'll sign into the platform, take a look and see what a wealth of creativity we've got in our community. So let's talk about community in a slightly different way now. So the Cardano Foundation has invited a number of new people into their team recently, not least Eva, who has joined as the new Chief Growth Officer. Now, she's only been in place for 3 weeks, but we wanted to take this opportunity just to introduce her to the community and you to her. So let's go to that clip now where I met her earlier. So Eva, thanks very much for joining the show today.
Thank you, Tim. Hi.
Perhaps you can just give us an indication of why Cardano, why you came to the foundation.
The moment I realized that DLT is here to stay was in 2015 at the largest financial services conference in Singapore. I saw that the banks were actually running around and competing with each other to see who understood most of blockchain and was launching the first DLT project. And this was by then a great thing for me to see, because by that time I worked at SIX at the FMI, and I couldn't believe how inefficient and costly this entire system was, that there is still a T+2, which didn't even make sense for me from a technological point of view. And that brought me closer to blockchain and innovation projects, and basically to Cardano. While working with other crypto companies and also other protocols at PwC, I looked of what is there, and I found Charles' whiteboard presentation 2017. And yeah, the first moment I was struck by it, and that was the first time I really believed that this is gonna be the next, actually the next the global financial operating system of the future, let's say. And of course, much more with DAO functionalities, etc.
So you're about a month in now, just a month. What are your first impressions?
My first impression, I mean, most and foremost, I was struck by the passion of the community and all the wider Cardano stakeholder. It's incredible and you feel that from the first second, basically. It makes a lot of fun and is super exciting to work in such an environment, and also to work with so many talented and ambitious people, not only within the foundation, but like as a whole. And I think that's the most rewarding thing. And I've literally never worked in a company where this is so strong, and it's so mission driven. And yeah, from an operational point of view, I think now as a next step is, because of this fast growth, is actually to connect more to the extended team, which actually is, on the one hand, IOHK, who is another very important partner in our ecosystem, but more importantly, the community that we see, and I already see them as our extended team. We wouldn't be here with the entire ecosystem. And I think this is why my impression is that we now have to move from a more inside out approach to an outside in approach to, okay, we were highly focused on, okay, how do we build the right organization, the right foundation, and now it's, okay, how do we include that in the ecosystem?
So in your role at the CF as kind of leading growth, I suppose your job title says it all. What do you see as some of the initial priorities in terms of kind of driving the adoption that you mentioned earlier, and kind of building out the community in that direction?
The role of a chief growth officer, it was created actually as a new component, with the new component that will be rolled out with Goguen. And so I hope that with my professional background in research, strategy, consulting, marketing and communications, and especially this data-driven growth hacking approaches, that this will help to actually also for us to create an adoption strategy based on not only strategy, but also communication and execution, actually. I think it's crucial to combine these three elements: strategy, communication, and execution, because you need communication to get to know what is needed for your strategy, and then to communicate your strategy and make align everybody and bring up everybody on the same track. And then, of course, that enables then the execution part. It is important to evaluate where you stand in order to find kind of the right path to move forward and to reach your targets. And this includes, of course, the first step is always building awareness. We have done that already, but I think we can do more. And then understanding, creating utility, and finally reach adoption, which is, I guess, the main target. Yeah, I think what is really crucial is that we combine all this intelligence we have, intelligence in the community, intelligence in all our ecosystem and organizations, gain new intelligence, also with tools and data research, and then actually align all the strength we have, combine it, and yes, I think with these combined capabilities, we're much faster in moving forward, and hopefully we'll also make more fun if we reach that as a team.
So Eva, just before we go, perhaps you've got a message for the community. There's a lot of them watching right now.
Yeah, my message is just thank you. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your effort and ambition, and for always thriving to create something new, to create something better. I think it's impressive what we've achieved so far, and I very much look forward, and I'm super excited about the things that will come next, especially within the next month. Yes, I think from my end, what I always believe is that, which I mentioned a bit before, it's knowledge. The more knowledge and experience you have, the more powerful you are, and that's why we most certainly are. That's a promise. We will reach out to you and also gather information and a bit of guidance or advices from in a more overarching way to really see how we can now continue this journey together.
Eva, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll look forward to talking to you lots more over the months ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
So that's it for this month. Another action-packed show. If you've stuck with us this long, thank you. But look, I mean, all the stuff we've covered, we've talked about Daedalus, we've talked about the new hardware wallet capability coming in, both for delegators and for stake pool operators. We've talked briefly around some of the changes on the parameter side that we're bringing in to broaden and grow the network further. We've talked about D and how we're going to keep on pushing through beyond that 0.5 barrier for a little while longer. What else have we heard today, Aparna?
We talked about the token locking piece, which is a part of Voltaire, and how that hard fork combinator event is coming up in December. And more importantly, after that is the whole Goguen piece and the rollout. We talked about the multi-asset standards, both native with the native token capability, and we talked about the ERC20 angle, about interoperability with the rest of the ecosystem. We revealed dates, especially around the multi-asset ledger, and also gave a lot of transparency to our audience around the program that is called Goguen and everything from front to end on what we're doing there. So that's a pretty big piece, Tim. And then,
yeah, more dates and more partners hopefully coming next month. So again, we'll keep sharing that information. Rollout of Marlowe Alpha starting today. As you say, multi-asset, pre-production area, end of November, beginning of December, all that kicking off there. We met Eva from the Cardano Foundation, so we'll have Eva back on, I'm sure, in a future show very, very soon. She can share a bit more about the detail and some of the strategies that they're formulating around brand growth, user growth, and also obviously developers as well. So we'll have more on that in a future show. We met one of our hackathon winners, and again talked about Catalyst, world's largest DAO, strength to strength. Yeah, I mean it's been quite a marathon, hasn't it?
Right. Packed show, like you say.
Okay. Well, look, thank you everybody for joining. As we say, after the show, we'll put some timestamps up on the YouTube channel. You can always come back here into Crowdcast as well and watch back at your leisure as much as you like, and go back and find the bits that matter to you most. But we'll sign out now. We'll see you next month, probably after Thanksgiving. Maybe a little bit of a festive theme. I'm sure we can do something, put a bit of tinsel on your chair or something there, Aparna. But look, thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you very, very soon.